that we have through Medicaid, unemployment, things like that, are really important in terms of what they represent in terms of dollars going directly into the economy. Food stamp dollars get spent immediately. Unemployment checks get spent immediately. Those Medicaid dollars ripple through our economy. Medicaid is really an economic engine. If you think about all the jobs in the health care sector that are funded really through Medicaid dollars, whether it's the receptionist in the doctor's office or the janitor in the hospital, those Medicaid dollars are critical. So we need to look at that. I am very, very troubled by the fact that the governor has said this is one-time money and she won't use it to shore up ongoing problems. Our response to that is, look, this is money to address a cyclical problem. And part of our problem is cyclical. Not all of it, but part of it. I'm equally disturbed to hear Senator Bishop, the Senate Majority Leader, talk about using the stimulus money for tax cuts, including the Michigan business tax surcharge that was part of our 2007 revenue fix, if you will. This would be using one-time money to replace permanent revenue, and with the surcharge, that would be to the tune of $700 million. So we must use our stimulus money wisely. We can't continue to cut taxes. As I mentioned, all through the 90s we cut taxes. The solution to every problem is not a tax cut. Michigan is not a high tax state. We rank about in the middle. But every day in the legislature there are bills introduced, some make it out of committee, others don't, to reduce our revenues further in the form of some sort of tax credit exclusion deduction. Every single day there's a bill that where we would forego more revenues. And finally, and I want to dwell on this, we have got to modernize our tax structure. We need a tax structure for the 21st century, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why our tax structure doesn't meet that test, and why, if we don't change the basic revenue structure with which we fund essential services and programs, then we're going to continue to have this issue of programs not keeping up with the need of our residents. First thing that we are advocating very strongly for is enactment of a graduated income tax like we have at the federal level, where you have multiple tax brackets. It's interesting, you know, when we talk about this, so many people think, well, we would be a real outlier if we did that. In fact, Michigan is one of only 7 states with a flat income tax rate. If we enacted a graduated income tax, which would grow more, when there's growth, it would respond to growth. It would also be more fair to the folks at the bottom. If we did that, we would be joining 36 other states that have a graduated income tax. Now, that's not something the legislature can do. It has to go on the ballot. But they can pass legislation to put it on the ballot, or it can come to the ballot through citizen initiative, through petitions. So that's a first step, and it's a critical step. And I'll just mention, in terms of the burden at the bottom, Michigan consistently ranks as one of the worst 10 states in terms of its tax treatment of people below the poverty level. At the federal level, people below the poverty level don't pay federal income tax. In Michigan, even though the poverty level for a family of 3 is about $17,000, we tax families at about $10,000. So it's a very heavy burden for the folks at the bottom. The next thing we need to do is broaden the sales tax to include services. Now, this was done in 2007. It was hated the minute it was passed, practically. It lasted a month before it was repealed and replaced with the MBT, the Michigan Business Tax Surcharge. It was the right policy. It was very poorly executed. And the chart at the bottom of page 6 is important, because what this shows you is that about 75% of our economic activity now is in the service sector. And yet we have a tax structure that taxes only goods. And it's really based on the 1950s kind of economy that was really based on goods and not services. So when you think about the equity and you think about sort of who's paying that tax, I don't know, there are lots of examples that I could use, but I usually think about somebody going to Home Depot and buying a lawnmower and paying tax on that lawnmower. But if I hire a landscape company to come and take care of my lawn, I don't pay a sales tax on that service. So who purchases more services? Higher income folks, for the most part. As I said, it was done very badly in 2007. Ski resorts, you know, there was a tax on the lift tickets. There wasn't a tax on green fees or marina fees. The palm readers and astrologists, you know, we were going to tax them. The joke around the office is they should have seen it coming. I don't do things well at 3:30 in the morning, and that's when this was passed. So, again, the right policy, poorly executed. We need to begin to address senior tax preferences. And you've got a chart, top of page 7, that kind of displays how generous we are in terms of our tax treatment of seniors. Now, there are a lot of seniors in the room. I'm one of those seniors, pretty much. And my husband's retired, and he says, "Sharon, don't talk about that. Just leave that one alone." But we are very, very generous in Michigan. And this is important as we think about the baby boomers aging. We exempt all public pensions from taxation. We exempt private pensions up to $80,000 roughly for joint filers. We exempt investment income up to about $17,000 for joint filers. We don't tax Social Security as most other states do. And for tax purposes, when you turn 65, you become two people. So when my husband and I filed our taxes, I feel so badly for him. His birthday is Christmas Day, so you know, he turned 65 on Christmas Day, got his Medicare card, but the good thing was that when we did our taxes, he's two people now and I'm still one. So, but I mean, I'm giving you these as examples and of money that is not coming in, it's revenue that we are foregoing again. And when the baby boomers start to retire and they aren't paying taxes on those pensions, and all this other stuff goes on, there's just going to be this big sucking sound in terms of revenues. It'll have profound implications for our revenue base in Michigan, and we need to be looking at that. The final thing well, it's not the final thing. We need to adjust the beer and wine tax for inflation. The tax on beer in Michigan was last adjusted in 1966. 1966, and it was adjusted downward. Oh. Now, this is we could tax beer and wine the way we tax hard liquor, which is as those costs go up, the taxes go up. But even if we simply doubled the beer tax right now, we're just double it, that would be an additional 2 cents per can. It would only yield $43 million. This is a small one, but it's very symbolic in terms of how this just has not kept up with costs and with inflation. My son said, he's 27, he said, that is a really, really bad idea. And I said, Tom, you know, if you can't afford an extra 2 cents a can for beer, then you shouldn't be drinking it in the first place. You can't afford it. So, again, there's just a lot of things that we need to look at in terms of a comprehensive approach to our tax structure. The last slide, I'll actually have you, I thought I had a chart on this, but I don't. We need to really start to look at our tax expenditures. And this is what I meant when I talked about tax credits, deductions, exclusions, exemptions from taxation. We forego more revenue than we currently collect by our